What avoidants really feel after a breakup. This is what we will cover today in this video. As you know, I'm a relationship therapist, but also a former avoidant. And I think it's always important to understand about our own psychology, but also our partner's psychology, especially in the context of a breakup, because there are so many questions, so many things we want to know. In this video, I will explain a little bit what's going on in your partner's mind if you recently broke up with an avoidant. Check it.
IGetMyExBack.com. Everyone deserves a second chance.
Let's start with right after the breakup. There's this sense of relief. It's finally happening. Avoidant people, they have a high sense of independence. They love, they enjoy, their safe space is when they're on their own. And so mechanically, a breakup provides this space. They are on their own, they can do whatever they want. And so because they reclaim this independence, they have a sense of relief. Understand that there's also some form of pressure before the breakup. They know that they're going to hurt you. They know that they're going to have difficult conversation. And it's also something they have a hard time dealing with. And so when the breakup is really happening, they feel relieved about this, right? So what will happen is usually that feeling of control, feeling of stability. It's happening. I can do whatever I want. I can see whoever I want, and I don't have to text you. I don't have to message you. I feel free, and I love it. What will happen after is emotional suppression. So dismissive avoidants are very good at suppressing, at dismissing their emotions. For a very long time, I thought that was a superpower. And in the context of a breakup, yes, most of them won't get hurt as much as you do, obviously. Because they will avoid thinking about the breakup. They will distract themselves. They have, I'm not saying it's healthy coping mechanism, but they have ways to deal with negative emotions. They dismiss them. They can sort of distract themselves and shut down when it needs to, when things can be a little bit uncomfortable. And so you'll find them working more hours, going out, learning new hobbies or stuff like that. Again, it's really about distraction. If you've been in a relationship with an avoidant who was in love with you, he or she will be sad breaking up with you. Okay, there's no other way around. Now, the way they deal with this is very different from an anxious person because they will automatically, very easily, naturally distract themselves. And the problem is that they won't process the breakup, and I'll discuss this in a second. And so what you're seeing on social media, or what you're hearing from your friends, is this image of someone detached, unaffected, he or she doesn't care. Some people will tell me it feels like we haven't had a relationship, right? This is more complex than that. It's very hard for you, but there's a lot of things happening beneath the surface. Because there's a subconscious longing. What happens is that there's always this conflict between this idea of wanting to be in a relationship. I want closeness. I want to share things with a partner. But also, I want to be independent. And so very often, that's the case with my clients, is this clash of attachment, anxious avoidant, create that dynamic where at some stage, the avoidant feels like, I can't do it. It's not working. But when I say it's not working, they're not saying, I'm not in love with you anymore. They just feel overwhelmed by the relationship. And so what will happen is they're going to have times where they think about you. But they will have this conflict of relief and loss. I'm on my own, but at the same time, I'm on my own. Okay. Whereas for anxious people, the experience is I'm on my own and it's awful. Right? And it's super hard and I want to get back together as quickly as possible so I can stop feeling this pain. For avoidant, it's on and off. And that's why also when you communicate with them, when you're in touch with them, you might have those mixed feelings. One day they'll be super happy to see you. They'll be engaged by text. And the next they will disappear and ghost you. And you feel what have I done? So that's why it's important to get some help in when you communicate with your partner, making sure that you create that safe space. So maintaining a form of independence, but also creating connection at the same time. And so what would happen is this inner conflict, as I discussed, because avoidants, like I said, they have this power to dismiss emotions. For a long time, I thought it was a superpower, but when you don't unpack those emotions, when you don't process them, they will resurface. And so you have this balance between independence and loneliness. What happens very often with avoidants, if they have had a meaningful relationship with a partner and they feel it's not working out, very often they'll feel depressed because they're going to feel like, I'm not ever going to be happy with a relationship. I'm never going to have a family. I'm never going to be having the same emotional intimacy. I want to learn how can I make my partner happier. Because sometimes they would say like, I can't give you what you want, right? When you hear those words, this raises the question of whether that person is willing to do some effort, to make some effort. So the problem is that they will have a hard time processing those feelings. And sometimes they can do it on their own. Sometimes we have to stir a little bit the conversation in the right direction. But the best way, the best significant sign that you can track is whether that your partner is seeing a therapist in order to deal with those problems. What will happen is there's going to be a delay in the emotional response. Especially, so it's even worse, avoidant and anxious. So after a breakup, obviously the one who took the decision to end the relationship will feel sad, depressed, anxious way after the person, the dumpee. For avoidant and anxious, the anxious will be even more depressed and more anxious right after the breakup for quite a long time. And the avoidant, again, for a very long time, it takes them to have this emotional response to kick in. And again, because the emotional level, the emotional connections, he will have an easier time to deal, but it's the mental construct, the rational part. In a way, they don't feel the loss in their heart, but in their mind, in their sort of right part of their brain, they'll think like, hold on, what am I doing with my life? Why have I self-sabotaged this relationship? He or she didn't deserve this. What do I want? Do I still want to be on my own? Do I still want to have only short-term relationships? Does it mean anything? Etc., etc., etc. So they won't feel the pain so much, but then the idea of being alone, the idea of not having so successful relationship will potentially kick in at some stage, and they will regret basically breaking up with you. So what you could see, for example, in terms of behaviors, they will focus on personal goals and achievements. So again, work, hobbies, and stuff like that. They might rebound into another relationship again as a way to distract themselves. And more importantly, where it's hard to track, they will avoid the deep emotional introspection. So I have few clients who are avoidant, and that's what we spend our time to do, is to really try to understand, to put words, attach those words to those feelings and unpack and understand how we function and be more in tune with our feelings, because we are animals, we have feelings, and we need to understand. That's how we connect with people, especially in romantic relationship. So if you're watching this video, I guess it's because you know that this relationship is not over. You know that this was special. And if that's the case, your ex will experience his breakup as an opportunity to learn something, to reflect, to realize what they've lost. Obviously, if they are seeing a therapist, that will help them to understand this avoidance, to understand the different coping mechanisms, the dynamic in the relationship, and how they treat the relationship, how their fear of intimacy, their fear of commitment. And gradually they'll start to recognize that the need for emotional balance. If you're not sure whether you have a chance or not getting back together, maybe you're trying to get back with an avoidant and you're confused and I put together a free quiz for you to make an assessment and have an idea. But understand that, and that's the case for all of my clients, being avoidant doesn't mean I can't love. Being an avoidant means I have a hard time managing independence, control in the relationship. And even if you leave a relationship, you always regret, especially if it was a meaningful relationship, you always regret not making it work. So at the end of the day, your ex probably wants this relationship to function. It's just that they don't know how. And that's why you hear, I don't think it's working. They're not saying, I don't love you. They say, I don't think it's working. So it's very important to make an assessment of what has been said after a breakup. Now, what about you? Very important. If you are or if you were dating an avoidant, you cannot work for them. Okay? They have to do the work. You can't be their therapist. You can't be their emotional support. They have to deal it with themselves. They're adults. Second thing, the only thing you can do right now is to focus on yourself. Most of your thoughts are around what are they doing? What are they thinking? What can I do to make them react? It should be about what can I learn about myself? What are the things that I can implement in my life to feel better today? In other words, how can I develop a secure attachment style if I feel that I have an anxious attachment style? Because when you work at developing a secure attachment style, you feel emotionally stronger, you have ways to self-regulate, you gain more confidence, you increase your self-esteem, and so on and so forth. Because what I want you to achieve, I think the objective, is not necessarily to get back together. The objective is when we will reconnect, because you will get back in touch. There's no doubt about that. You want the dynamic to change. You want the tables to turn. Because this time, what you want is to get back on your own terms. Because you're not anxious anymore. You know what you want. You know the things you can't accept. You also, because you've worked on yourself, now expect your partner to do the same. So being an avoidant is not an excuse. Being an avoidant, and I've used to be an avoidant, being an avoidant is not an excuse for them to do the work. I don't want you to end up reproducing the same mistakes, perpetuating the same patterns, and suffering another breakup. So right now, focus on the things you can control. Focus on yourself. Take care of yourself. And you'll see, in a couple of weeks, couple of months, you'll have an opportunity to speak with them. You'll have an opportunity to discuss, to see what they've done. That's the most important thing. That's what you have to put your energy in. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. If you liked the video, don't forget to click on like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.